You guys pick from all across Australia. You've got all ages represented, all regions represented. This isn't just a survey that you've asked a few people in Sydney.
No, exactly. And in fact, we get Nielsen to field the research for us. And of course, they're a very large international research firm. In Australia, they're a very large national research firm. They have 80,000 households in Australia that they have access to. They randomize the selection of people who are involved. We designed the survey in consultation with the Interactive Games and Entertainment Association, and then they go out and get all of the responses. And we say, look, just make sure we've got gender balance. We know that 51% of Australians are female, so we want 51% of our sample to be female. We know that most people live in New South Wales and then Victoria, and so we want each state and territory represented. And we want all types of households, so we say just randomize it. Don't give us anything specific. We want to know what's really happening.
I've seen a lot of changes in the video game industry in the over 14 years that I've been working in the industry, and a lot of them have been that this hobby that most people thought was a hobby is now mainstream, is being used in real ways. This new generation of individuals, they're gamers at heart.
So this is the 7th in the series of studies called Digital Australia. We started in 2005, and when we started, the average age of a person who played video games was only 24. Representation of women amongst all gamers was 37%. Yeah. So we have done this research 7 times, each time to show changes in the nature of the video game playing audience. We want to see the differences in how games are being used. We want to understand how to communicate games to people who don't get it. That's probably the really big reason. And we want to show where games are going, at least where we think they're going, as a result of the audience.
And so you've just touched on a couple of major ways that gamers have changed over the last 12 years. What else has changed? I know that this year the report had some really decent surprises.
Absolutely. I mean, the stuff that doesn't surprise me is that, okay, the average age is ticked up from 33 to 34 on average. It doesn't surprise me greatly that women are at 47, 46% of the total game-playing population. Okay, I know people are getting older in Australia generally, and so people who play games are getting older. I get all of that. And so sometimes we ask ourselves, why do we do this report year after year? I mean, in the old days, back in 2005, before we had an R18+, for example, we did the report sort of to push that story that adults play games. But that adult story has really gone by the wayside. And the stuff that we're looking at now does surprise me because we often don't expect it. So just for example, over the 12 years we've been doing the research, we've been asking, why do you play? Most people, no great surprise, play to have fun. But of course, they also play to pass the time. There are lots of other reasons that we've asked the same questions over the years, and one of the questions is to keep the mind active. Another one is to do things I can't do in real life. Another one is to learn, right? And when we've done this research in the past, we've seen little changes, and we started looking at the differences between casual games and in-depth games, because of course what you get out of them is going to change. I mean, obviously you play a casual game really to pass the time. You're not going to have some sort of major experience that gives you a super virtual environment that you can play for hours on end and get immersed in, and that's for, in-depth gameplay. Actually, that is changing, because on tablets now we have these really in-depth immersive games. So we decided to just look at what's happening with the reasons why people play, and it blew me away to discover that to have fun is dropping as a reason for playing games. I mean, that's still the main reason. To pass time, still up there. But all of those other reasons, for example, for social interaction, I mean, I know, we all know that games are social, but not everybody knows that. And that reason for playing games is actually increasing anyway. So that's a really big takeaway, good story to tell people who don't understand. So all the serious and functional reasons that maybe business people or politicians or policymakers might sort of say, well, that would be good if games did that, they do that. And we're seeing they're doing that a lot more than they did just 2 years ago.
Really, in terms of progress, what I see is just that infiltration into communities. So, the fact that I'm seeing my mum play Pokemon Go with my 6-year-old nephew is a really kind of great indication of exactly where games are going. There's something for everyone.
We've discussed how the answers have changed. How have the questions changed over the past 12 years? I know a lot of the questions are the same, but I also know that there are some new ones that have been introduced. Have there been others that have been retired because they're not relevant?
Yeah, we stopped asking questions about genre. What genre do you play? For two reasons. One is you get a lot of noise when you ask that question. Probably because not everyone speaks the same language about genres, and even in the industry, and even amongst journalists, there are variations, right, in genres. We also used to ask exactly what games you play because we wanted to catalog that, but we don't need to do that anymore. I mean, there's point of sale and digital download data for that, so we don't need that. I mean, it's great if you want to sort of compare and contrast, but I think we've got a good handle on that, so we've retired those. The stuff that we're asking now is all about where our game's going. So we keep adding. Some questions we'll have, 4 responses to or 5 possible responses to, and we'll add a couple because we can see changes. And one example here is that demeaning depictions of women is increasingly problematic. I mean, after, dare I mention it, Gamergate, there was a lot of question about representation. So we've asked those. We've added those sorts of categories to our questions. This year we asked about should games be, should representation change in games? Do we need to get more, gender portrayals of, that are equal, so more women? Do we need more, do we need to reduce the age discrimination in games? Do we need more older characters in games? Do we need different nationalities in games? So we added those sorts of things. And the reason for doing that is that we're understanding that people are focusing more and more on games to do more for them. And so games probably have some responsibility to represent more of our society.